Gina. Today I'm going to show you how to make what I am calling a crystal window bracelet. So you can see it looks like little windows where the crystals are. So this is a really dainty, really cute little bracelet, pretty easy to make, and I've used a fold over clasp on it, which I'll put a link in the description box beneath the video player if you'd like to use a fold over clasp, or you can just use whatever clasping you would like. So what we're going to do is put this little guy on. So all I have to do is bring this around, and I'll show you in a minute. So I've got the clasp through and I just close it like that. That's how that works. And let me back off a little bit, and this is what it looks like. It's really cute little bracelet, really nice and stackable because it's tiny. And you can also, instead of using 11/0 and 15/0 like I have in a 4mm bicone, you can use an 8/0 where the 11/0 are. You can use an 11/0 where the 15/0 are, and you can use a 5 or 6mm bicone and get a much bolder look if you'd much rather have a little bit bigger bracelet. Otherwise, this is what this looks like, and let's go ahead and see what it takes to make this particular bracelet. Okay, for this video today, we will be using two colors of 11/0 seed beads. These are both Toho. This is a pine green, and this is the nickel plate. Then we will be using a 15/0 seed bead, and this is galvanized permanent finish aluminum. We will also be using two 8/0 seed beads to attach the clasping, and this is also Toho permanent finish aluminum. Then we will be using 4mm bicones. In your Golden Harvest treasure bag, you should have a package of 50 green and 50 orange 4mm bicones. Now, if you did not get the treasure bag, it doesn't matter. Use any 4mm bicone you want in any color scheming. You can always change your accent color of your seed beads to match whatever you're doing. I'm going to be using this little fold over clasp. I have these in my store if you want one. The toggle that came in the treasure bag you can use. However, it's just a little bit big for how dainty this bracelet is. So I'm going to use a little fold over, step it up a little bit, make it a little classier, and also make it function better as far as size is concerned. And then I am going to be using Nanofil, 10 pound. Now you can use 8 or 10 pound Nanofil, or you can use 6 or 4 pound Fireline. We're going to be sewing through these beads a lot. They're small beads, and we're going to be using 15/0s also. So you want a very small in diameter thread. So like I said, 8 or 10 Nanofil, and probably 4 would even work better than 6 pound Fireline. But you can certainly try 6 pound, it should work. Then we're going to be using a size 12 beading needle simply because, again, these beads are small and we're going through them a lot. So you want to put onto your size 12 beading needle about a wingspan of thread to start with. You will probably need to extend your Fireline or Nanofil during this process, and I will post a video link in the description box beneath the video player that will show you how to do that if you do not know how. Start with a wingspan. That's when you put your arms out to your sides like they're wings, and you're going to fly away. Measure from the fingertips of the first arm, the length of that first arm, across your chest, the length of the second arm, and to the fingertips on that arm. And that is a wingspan of thread. Go ahead and thread your needle. Let's get started. Okay, to start this project, we will be doing a ladder stitch with 3 seed beads. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick up, I'm going to start with my nickel color Tohos. So I'm going to pick up 3 11/0 seed beads onto my needle, and then I'm going to pick up 3 of my green color, like this. So this is frosted pine. And I'm just going to bring them down to the end of the thread. Now you want to leave at least a 6 to 12 inch tail, or you can leave just enough to extend so you can put your clasping on in the end. And then we're going to go from the tail side up through the first 3 beads here. So I'm going through from the tail side the nickel color beads, just like this. Now I'm coming out of the nickel beads. I'm going to go into the green beads, and I'm going to go through all 3 of them at the same time, and I'm going to hold them between my fingers and pull the thread through so I can give a tiny tug and kind of tighten them up. Then I'm going to go back through the silver beads. Simply because this is going to be the end of our bracelet, we want it to be nice and secure. So we're going to sew back up through them. And then that should draw everything together pretty nicely. Then we're going to go into the 3 green ones here. Now we have accomplished a ladder stitch with 3 beads. We're going to do one more row of ladder stitch. So we're going to pick up 3 in the nickel color now onto the needle, and we're coming out of this side of the green beads. We're going to go into the opposite side and go through all 3 of them again. And we're going to pull these down into place, just like this. Now we are going to go up through the 3 11-ohs again. Now we're going to we're going to make our first little crystal window. So we're going to pick up a 15-oh seed bead, then we're going to pick up, I think I'm going to use green first, pick up a green bicone, and then I'm going to pick up another 15-oh seed bead, and I'm going to go back through the ladder stitch that we just created from the opposite side. So I'm coming out here, I'm going to go into here, and go through all 3 beads. Pull your thread through, and draw this down. This is what this should look like. Now, because of the fact that we are suspending a crystal here, we want to sew through this entire little unit again so that it will be nice and secure. So we're going to go through the 15-oh here, coming out of the 11-ohs, go through the 15-oh, pull your thread through, go through the crystal, go through the 15-oh on the other side, and I suggest you do it 1 bead at a time so it retains the shape that we want. We want to frame this crystal. And then we're going to go back up through the 3 we connected to. Just like this. Now we're going to come through this 15-oh and back into the crystal. So come through the 15-oh, come into the crystal, and then pick up a 15-oh and 3 of your nickel color beads, or whatever you're using, your first color, and another 15-oh, just like this. And then we're just going to go back into the 4mm bicone. So we're coming out of this side, we're going to go into the opposite side and pull these around. And this is what it should look like. Now, I am going to go through and sew through this again. And I'm going to go through the 15-oh by itself, just to retain the shape I want. Then I'm going to go through the 3 11-ohs here, together. Then through the 15-oh here. And yes, I'm putting my fingers over the beads, but that's because if you hold them, you can get a nice secure stitch. And then I'm going to go back through the crystal. Now we have to move into the 3 11-ohs here, so we're going to go through the 15-oh on this side and up through the 3 11-ohs. Now we are sewing through these beads a lot, but as I said, this is a crystal kind of suspended in the middle. Crystal is sharp and it can break. So we are reinforcing this so that it doesn't break. So we're going to come up through these 3 beads here now. We're going to add 3 11-oh seed beads in the green color. And we're coming out of this side, we're going to go into the opposite side and go up through all 3 of them. And they can get kind of position funny. Just stab myself, that's lovely. So just go through them patiently until you can just navigate through them. Pull those beads up, just like this, and I'm going to get even closer here. I'm going to go down into these 3 now. So I'm coming out of the 3 previous that we made, and I'm going to go through the 3 new ones, and then back up through the 3 previous. Then I'm going to go through the 3 new ones. Now that we're secure, we can make another ladder stitch of 3 of the nickel color beads, just like this. Then we're going to go into the opposite side of the 3 green beads. So we'll do 3 segments of ladder stitch here. So basically 1, 2, 3 is what I'm calling my 3 segments. Then we're going to go back up through the new beads, back down through the previous beads, and back up through the new beads. Then we're going to add our next crystal window. So we're going to pick up a 15-0, then we're going to pick up a orange this time, bicone, and then a 15-0, and we're going to go back through the 3 that we are exiting into the opposite side from which we are exiting, and pull this down. Place it so that it lays on top just like this, and now we're going to go ahead and sew back through this again. So go through the 15-0, and we're going to do 1 bead segment at a time. So the 15-0 is the top of the frame, then we'll go through the crystal, and then we'll go through the 15-0 on this side for the bottom of the frame, and this sewing 1 at a time will keep them in the place that we want them to frame the crystal. Then we're going to go back up through the 3 11-0s that we started in. Make sure you don't skip any of them, go through all 3 of them. And then we have to go back through the 15-0 here, and down into the crystal. Now we have half of our frame, so let's make the other half. Pick up a 15-0, come here, and then pick up 3 of your nickel color, and a 15-0, and then go back into the crystal on the opposite side from which you are exiting. So we're just going to go here and draw these down. Now we have to sew back through them to make sure that the thread is nice and strong. So 15-0 by itself. Pull my tail out of there. And then through the 3 nickel 11-0s here. 15-0 on top by itself. And through the crystal. Now you want to make sure that you use a very fine thread so that you don't see a ton of thread through these crystals. Plus, if you use like a clear or something very, very light, you will see it more. But, you know, it's not horrible anyway. Then we're going to go up through this 15-0 now that we're coming out of the crystal, and go through the 15-0 by itself. It's like this. Then we're going to go through the 3 11-0s here. It's like this. And we're going to pick up 3 green 11-0s now, and go back through the opposite side of the beads we're coming out of, just like this. And then go into the new set, back through the previous set, and back into the new set. Come on, you. Okay, there we go. And then 3 11-0s in the nickel color. And I cannot pick up my beads. There we go. And we're going to go into the opposite side from which we're coming out. Pull these down and then secure them by going back through them, back through the previous set, back through the new set. And I'm just alternating the colors of my crystal, so this time, and make sure your stitches are nice and tight, because ladder stitch on the side can be very thready looking. It's okay if you have them nice and neat and they are very tight, they look fine. It's just, you know, your bracelet has to be held together by something. So that's fine, but if you make very loose stitches, they will look sloppy. So make sure they're nice and neat, and then we're going to pick up a 15-0 seed bead. And this time we're going to use a green crystal and a 15-0 seed bead and go back up through the 3 11-0s we are exiting and go up through the opposite side from which you're exiting. Just like this. So back through. So I'm just going to turn this over just so that I can get to it a little better. I'm going to go through the 15-0. Then I'm going to go through the crystal. Then the 15-0. Now you can do this on a larger scale with 8-0 seed beads. Use an 11-0 where you use the 15-0, use an 8-0 where you use the 11-0s, and then use a larger crystal. You can do that too. Because I know some people have difficulty with seeing the tiny 15-0s. So now I am coming back through the 11-0s. I'm coming up through the 15-0. And then I'm going to go through this crystal here. You can see this is going to be a very dainty little bracelet. And it's very stackable. You could do this in a bunch of different colors and stack these. They'd be really cute. Then let's finish this other side, and then we'll go to length off camera. So let's pick up a 15-0 and 3 of our nickel plate 11-0s and a 15-0. Go back through the opposite side of the crystal from which you're exiting and pull. I'm going to turn it over just so I can get to it better. I'm going to go through the 15-0 by itself. Then I'm going to go through the 3 11-0s here. Then I'm going to go through the 15-0 here. And then I'm going to go through the crystal. Now I will work my way back over to the 11-0s. I'll go through the 15-0 by itself, and then go through the 3 11-0s here. Then I will just put my next set of 11-0s in the green, and then of course in the nickel, and just repeat the process, alternating my colors of crystal as I create the bracelet, and just continue doing that until you have length an inch short of the length you would like to achieve. So with mine, I've used 16 crystals, and then of course we have our sets of 3 on either side of each one. This is made at about 6 1/4 inches long. My particular clasping is going to add 1 1/4 inches, so I should end up with a 7.5 inch bracelet. So that is how you want to calculate how you're going to end your length according to the type and size of clasping you're using. You'll just have to figure out how much room you need to allow for your clasping. And now I'm at the end here, and I've ended, of course, on my set of 3 ladder stitch. I am going to add my clasping now. With my particular clasp, you can open either side of this and take it off like this, and then I can put either one on either side. I can put the parts that I've taken off. So I can take this side off too, and it just makes it easier for me to make my ending without having to struggle with a big heavy clasp. Once I have put both sides on, then I can just slide the middle portion back on it, and I'll show you that. But the first thing we're going to do is we're coming out of this last ladder stitch here. We're going to pick up an 11/0 seed bead, and then we're going to pick up an 8/0 seed bead. Remember, I told you you'd need 2 8/0 seed beads, so you'll need one for either side. Just allows for more room to sew through and secure your clasping. Then I'm going to go ahead and close this, and I'm going to go up through the little loop on it. And I'm going to bring it down to my 8/0 seed bead, making sure that this isn't upside down. I want the domed part up, and then I'm going to go into the 8/0 seed bead. Of course, you can use any clasping you'd like. If you want this type of clasp, I do have some, but you can use whatever clasping you want. You're going to put it on the same way. You're going to use the 11/0, the 8/0, and go through the loop of whatever clasp you're using. Then you're going to pick up an 11/0 seed bead. On the other side, we're going to go into the ladder stitch and pull this 11/0 down on this side, and this should turn into a little triangle like this, attaching your clasping end. Now I'm going to sew back up through it again twice. If I can get through, there we go. And then I'll go back in. So I've come up through the 11/0, the 8/0, through the clasping. I'll go back down into the 8/0, and then I'll go into the 11/0 on this side. If it spreads apart like mine did, that's okay, because when you pull it together, it'll all come back together. So now we're going to go into the ladder stitch again on this side. Okay. So this is how we're going to attach this. Let's go ahead and sew through this 1 or 2 more times, whatever makes you feel more secure. We'll come back, I'll tie off this side, and then we can go off camera and do the other side exactly the same way with our leftover tail. Okay, so I have secured my clasping by going through it 2 more times, and now I'm coming out of the 11/0 seed beads that I attached the clasping portion to. There is, right between the beads, a pretty hefty little thread bridge right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go right underneath that thread bridge with my needle, just like this, and pull my thread until I form a loop. Once I formed a loop, then I'm going to go into that loop with my needle and just draw a knot down on that thread bridge. Then I'm going to go through the next set of ladder stitch. So I've been between these 2 ladder stitch. I'm going up into this one, and then I'm just going to tie a knot on the thread bridge on this side between the 2 ladder stitches. So I'll just go under that thread bridge, form a loop, go through the loop, and pull it down. And then I'm just going to sew through the next ladder stitch right here. And at this point, I can go ahead, you can sew through more if you want, but you have to sew through your crystal again. And sewing through the crystal again just puts more thread in it and makes it look cloudier. You can see a little bit of cloudiness on each one, so I don't really want to sew through my crystal again. I'm going to cut this down, grab a pair of scissors that actually work. And I have a tiny tag here. I'm just going to get my flame close and melt that down. And you got to be careful because there's a lot of thread there, so don't get the heat too close. Don't light it on fire, and just melt it in. Okay, so this side is finished. Now, you should have retained a thread on this side, and you're going to do exactly the same process. Just put your needle on the thread that you've left over. If you need to extend it, extend it. Otherwise, just go ahead and put your needle on and put this side of the clasping on exactly the same way. So it doesn't matter what clasping you're using, you're still going to pick up an 11/0 and 8/0, go through it, go through the loop on your clasping, and then go back down into the 11/0s. So go ahead and do this side, and we'll be back. I'll put my clasp back together and show you what the bracelet looks like. Okay, so I have put the clasping on either side. Now I'm just going to put my clasp back together. I'm going to open this side. I'm going to pop, oops, the little round part back on and close it. Now, when I want to use my clasping, I can just open this side and hook it in like this, and I will have my clasping. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that open so I can put it on my wrist and show you what it looks like. And of course it always takes me a minute. You just can't just do it right. It just doesn't work. Okay, and this is what it looks like. Here's my clasping. It's really pretty. And this is what the bracelet looks like. Really cute little thing. Nice and dainty, perfect for stackable. And this little clasp looks really nice on it. I think it turned out really cute. And if you want to make a bolder bracelet, like I said earlier in the tutorial, you can use 8/0 and 11/0 seed beads. So you'd use an 8/0 wherever you'd use an 11/0 in this particular pattern, and use an 11/0 wherever you would use a 15/0, and then just use a 5 or 6 millimeter bicone, and you can have a bolder bracelet and do the same pattern, just like this. Anyway, this is what this looks like. Let me take it off and lay it out one more time with the clasping on. Maybe I can, I don't know, we're gonna find out. With my fingernails and these little clasps, it's not always the easiest thing in the world. So let me do this. And that's what this looks like. Really pretty. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. There will be several more to come with the treasure bag, but there will always be videos that you can either draw inspiration from or do the exact same thing with beads in your stash. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.